Hi everyone. This video is for you if you are enrolled in the Early Childhood Practicum or seminar for John Wood Community College. I'm going to go through some of the important things for you to know about this course and give you time to ask questions before we get too deep into the course. This is a class that goes pretty quickly, so I want to make sure that you're able to stay on track and be well aware of what your responsibilities are as you complete this course. So let's get going.
All right. So let's get started with our first piece of the course, and that is the seminar section. So that should be ECE 297 on your dashboard. And this is the location where almost all of your assignments are going to live. There's a few of them in Practicum, but most are going to live right inside of this course shell right here. So as always, you guys should be familiar with Canvas by now. It's got our dashboard here at the very beginning. It's going to talk about my basic information and give you a little photo for our course landing page. From there, you're going to click into modules. If I have announcements for you for this Practicum experience, I'm not going to put them in the ECE 298, which is the Practicum page. It will stay right here in this seminar page. So I do have the syllabus uploaded here. Once again, as always, it's important for you to read through your syllabus and understand all of the responsibilities for the course. I also have our Illinois Learning Standards. Most of you are going to be working with preschool age children during this course. So that's the one right here in the middle. Those are the learning standards that you're probably going to be using. If you're a student who is in a kindergarten classroom or possibly even an older classroom, we will be using a different set of standards. So I do have the Illinois Learning Standards for kindergarten listed right here. And then I also have the Illinois Early Learning Guidelines. And you might be saying, April, that's for children birth to 3. And we really probably won't have those age groups in here. But what I do want you to consider, some of you might have some 2-year-olds in your preschool room. Sometimes 2-year-olds are considered early preschoolers. So you would need to refer to your guidelines if you have them. And also, if you have a child with developmental delays, they might not be at even where the beginning steps are in the Illinois Early Learning Standards. So you may need to go back to the guidelines to find appropriate guidance for a child who may have special needs in your classroom. So that is why you have the different standards posted there, even though most of you are going to use this preschool one right here. Then we're going to go to our orientation model. This is where I do have your module overview for each week, just like I do in my other courses. So if you've had other classes with me, you're very familiar with this. And then I'm going to have your homework posted in here. You can see for the first week, your assignment is the practicum placement information. It is exactly what it sounds like. It's a little quiz that you go in and you tell me where you're planning on doing your practicum at, and you give me a little bit of information about your practicum site. For instance, who is the supervisor there and who is going to be your mentor teacher. Typically, your mentor teacher is going to be the lead teacher in the classroom. However, sometimes we have people where they may already be lead teacher qualified, so they may be the lead teacher in the classroom. Or sometimes your lead teacher may not quite have some of the educational requirements that we would like them to have for this position, which is an associate's degree in early childhood or a level 4 ECE. If you run into any of those circumstances, please just reach out to me and I can talk to you about that and we can work through that one-on-one, whether that mentor is going to work for you. But talk with your supervisor, your director, whoever that is at your work site. Plan for a good classroom for you to be able to complete your practicum hours. I want you to choose one classroom to do your 90 hours in. And then you can talk about who that mentor teacher might be from there. So then as you continue to scroll down, you're going to see each week has a different topic that we're going to be covering, as well as different assignments listed in there. This class is really flexible. Most of you are used to my practices, and in the past, I want you to do your homework when it's due or ask for an extension. This class is a little bit different. I do want you to complete your journal entries by the due date. Okay, so this one right here, it's your first journal entry. This is due by January 30th. So please have that done by the due date and then respond to at least one classmate by February 1st. These journal entries are aligned with the Gateways assignment that is the enhanced philosophy statement. Those, some of you might remember back when you took Foundations of Early Childhood, you did a philosophy statement in that class, but that was probably right when you began taking classes. And now you have all this knowledge, all these things that you've learned in your time here at John Wood. And so now we're asking you to go a little bit deeper, especially into certain topics like curriculum, assessment, things like that. So this is where in the journal entry, you're going to come in and you're just going to give me your feedback, your thoughts, your beliefs on working with children and families and how it relates to the topic for that journal entry. So journal entries are really the only assignment that I'm going to ask you to make sure you do by the due date, because we rely on each other getting our stuff done so that you can have these meaningful discussions about the topic. Also, you don't have to wait on anything to do these because this is just your beliefs and your thoughts. So it's not like if school was out for the week because of a snow day, you can still tell me what your thoughts are on collaborating with families. So this is the only one you have to do when it's due. The rest of the assignments in this course, I'm very, very, very flexible with. Don't have to ask me for an extension. I know everyone is probably going to be on different timelines. However, I don't want you to take that as a pass just to put things off, because all of these things are still due and will impact your grade in the end. So if you want to keep yourself on track, the best practice is to try to get things done by the due date I have listed in here. You can even work ahead if you want, but I just want you to know if there's some freak thing that happens at your program and you're not able to get assignments done one week, that's okay. It's really common for everybody to be on a slightly different schedule in this class. So one of the first things you're going to do in this course is to write an introductory letter to families. And you might be saying, well, April, this isn't a new classroom for me. This is a classroom I've been in for 2 years now. It'd be weird for me to introduce myself to them. So what you want to do instead of saying, hi, my name is, and giving them an introduction to you, is to maybe remind them who you are and describe what the practicum experience is. Let them know I'm going to be doing a practicum. That means my instructor's going to be coming to observe me. I'm going to be doing some specialized assignments. So just give them a little rundown of what to expect since you're in this program. This is really about communicating well with families. You're also going to work on a classroom profile pretty early in the semester, and that's going to involve you observing a group of children, about 5 children, and just seeing, can you figure out what their challenges might be? Do you know what they might do really well at, what their strengths might be? What are their interests? And the reason why I have you do that is that's, as teachers, that's what we need to be doing to be developing a good curriculum, is really thinking about our children as a whole, their strengths, their challenges, their needs, their interests, right? And so you're going to look at a group of 5. From that group of 5, you're going to choose one child to be a focus child. And that focus child is the child that you're going to be really focusing in on when you do your lessons. You're going to be assessing their development and documenting all of that in a portfolio. And then at the end of the semester, you're going to sit down with me, kind of like I was that child's parent, and role play a little bit how you would use everything you gathered over the semester for this child to tell me about their development, what you've seen, what you've learned about the child, what the child is able to do. And that's when you need to get a release for portfolio. This needs to not be a foster child. Foster children are really hard to get their releases from because we end up having to go through DCFS. So that's really complicated. So I ask that you not pick a foster child for this, and that you will have the parent sign the release, which is saying, yes, I can use documentation. I can share that with my professor. My professor and I are going to talk about this. That's really all that comes down to. At the end of the semester, you're going to give this portfolio back to the family. And I actually even ask that you not take the portfolio out of the childcare center or school that you're working at. Leave it there so that way we don't have any confidentiality concerns at all, right? So I'm not going to be keeping the portfolio. You are going to be sharing that with the family when you are done with the practicum. So now this gets into the meat and potatoes of the course. So you're going to see you have journal entries all throughout the course. You also have these program case studies. And these case studies are when you are going to go to your family handbook, or maybe it's a work plan that you have at your work site that kind of tells you guys how you do everything in your center. And you're going to study certain components of these work plans or parent handbooks. Very first one is curriculum. You're going to look up all the information about the curriculum that this child care center or this school uses with the children that are in this classroom. And you're going to write down all the details about that. You can share the excerpt if you find it on a website or in the family handbook. That's perfectly fine. And then you're just going to kind of do a little evaluation of it. With what you know about curriculum, do you feel like it's appropriate? What do you feel like are the strengths of the program around curriculum? Maybe where might there be some gaps? And what would you suggest for the future? So you're going to do a few of these on different topics throughout the semester. You're also going to be doing some environmental rating scales. So if you are working with children 3 to 5 or even 2 to 5, 2.5 to 5, then you're going to be doing the Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale. It's a yellow book, and it's called the Eckers is what we call it. And so it's just a way for you to assess the environment. This is an important part of being an educator, is being able to assess your environment or your program, and then use what you learn from the assessment to make changes and improvements as you go along. If you are working with children kindergarten age, or first grade or second grade by any chance, then you are actually going to be using the school age environmental rating scale, and we call that one the Sakers. And so it's a purple book, I do believe. So what I ask you to do is ask at your location, depending on the age group you're going to be working with, ask them if they already have a Sakers or an Eckers that you can use, and you could just make copies of the pages that you need when you get to those parts, or you could just use the book because you're not going to need to write in it. You're actually just using it as guidance to figure out, when I look at this page, where would I say the program does well? Where would I say the program has some gaps, and what would I suggest for improvement? Okay, so you don't have to do the scoring, score out anything or anything like that. It's the simplified version. You just kind of reflecting on what you're reading. But ask your program, do they have a copy of either the Eckers or the Sakers that you can use? If they do not, I do have copies I can get to you, but I need you to email me that you need a copy, and I need you to tell me which one you need, and you will have to return it at the end of the semester. So no writing in the book is one of the big things for that. Then the next thing that you're going to be working on is you're going to have 5 different lesson plans that you do throughout the semester in this class. Okay, so 5 different domains that you're going to be developing a lesson plan off of. So if you can see, and I'm hoping it opens up when I click this. Okay, so this is your physical development and health lesson. So I have in here all the instructions that you need to do the entire lesson plan process. It's actually 3 different assignments, and you see they're linked in blue here. Each one of these is an assignment that you have to do to work through the entire lesson plan process. So you see it's going to start with a pre-reflection, and your pre-reflection is going to be where you think about the learning standards that relate to physical development and health. And then you choose one standard. This is where it gets really tough for teachers. I know when you are asking children about body parts and their functions, I know that you can also assess language when you're doing that. Or you can also assess cognition, right? Or even how they're interacting with the adult that is doing this game or this activity with them. I know we can assess a lot of other things, but I really only want you to focus on that one domain for this. Okay, so consider this your main objective. Yes, you might be noticing other developmental skills, but this is your main objective for the lesson. So that's going to be the very first thing. What was the learning standard that you're going to work from? Then you're going to develop your own learning goal for the student using child-focused language. So like the child will identify 3 body parts and name the functions for them. right? So that might be your goal. It's something that you're going to be able to measure and know if they're doing well. Then you want to know, how are you going to observe or assess? What exactly are you going to be looking for during this? It might be, I'm looking for the child to be able to name 3 body parts and describe their functions, right? And then you're going to think about, what might your documentation method be? So are you going to make anecdotal notes? That's probably what I would do in that circumstance. Or you could make a video of it, right? You could even take a picture of them pointing if they were doing certain pointing things. So list what that's going to be. And that's going to be what gets put in your portfolio each time when you do the lesson. And then at the bottom, this is where you are rationalizing the activity that you're going to do. I need to rationalize why I'm doing it. And it shouldn't just be the general, like, children need to know body parts, so that's why I'm doing it. But more like, let's say this child is very interested in talking about their body lately, so that's why I chose it. Or we're doing a project in our class all about how we can be healthy, so that's why I'm talking about body parts, right? Give me some reason why you feel like this experience that you're going to plan for the child is relevant for them, right? It's meaningful. And this is you showing me you know how to plan for an emergent curriculum, which an emergent curriculum means it's a curriculum that comes from the needs and interests of the children in your classroom. Okay. So those are the things you're going to know on the pre-reflection for each lesson. This is where you're going to give the lesson or the experience a name. So maybe I say it's body part game, right? And then you're going to tell me all the materials you need to play the body part game. Okay. What are all the materials? What do you need to prep? What do you need to have ready? And then you're going to think about, how am I going to introduce this body part game? Right. And I might, one of my favorite ways to introduce things is by bringing a book in. So maybe I find a book on body parts and we read that. And then that gets me the introduction into, okay, guys, now we're going to go play a body part game. Now you're going to list what happens during the lesson. What will the children be doing? What will the adults be doing? So really, how are you going to support the children throughout the activity? What kind of questions might you ask? What might you do if children don't understand, right? You can go into lots of details for the procedure. And then the last piece is, how am I going to close it out? When we're all done, or when I'm ready to wrap it up, how am I going to wrap up the learning, make sure that I can put a nice little bow on what we learned, and then move them to the next activity? What is going to be my plan? Then you're going to tell me how you differentiated your lesson. So this might be something that you prepared to do a little bit differently for a child who has a special need, or maybe for a child who likes a different learning style. Maybe you did something different for children who are English language learners, right? Maybe having those body parts and having a plan for how you say them in Spanish or Russian or what other language you might have in your classroom. Really, how are you going to extend the learning? How can they continue to practice this? How could you repeat this activity like in another way, doing it slightly different next time, right? Just how are we going to continue building on this? Because we know children benefit when they're learning new things by repetition. And that is going to be then your lesson plan. And then finally, the last piece of this assignment is for you to come in and do the lesson plan reflection. And I'm not even going to open that one up. It's pretty much what it sounds like. It's you, after you've done the lesson with the children, you taking the time to think about what went well, maybe what didn't go well, what you might do differently next time, right? So you can really think about, when I do an activity like this in the future, this is something I need to consider. So that is the lesson plan in a whole. You're going to do 5 of these. Eventually, 2 of these that you plan, you are going to have me come and observe you doing them. It is fine for you to do them twice or even 3 times in the classroom. So this can be, maybe the physical development lesson went really well and you really liked it. So for my first observation, you're like, come and watch us do this. We're going to do it again. And so you might do the activity a second time. That is perfectly fine. I don't have to be observing you doing it the very first time. It can be a repeated activity. So to keep going, you can see there's another case study, and this one's about screening and assessments. more environmental rating scales and journal entries and lesson plans. It's a lot of repetition over and over again. And then you get to the end and you're going to have your portfolio evaluation and your family and staff handbook. The family and staff handbook is where you are going to use the handbook from the location where you are working. So ask them for a family handbook, and you're just going to go through and give an overview of each of these things: their introduction, their philosophy, their curriculum, their family engagement, their communication strategies, their orientation, and the resources they provide. Give an overview on it. And then you are going to make any changes to it if you feel like that it needs to be beefed up. So you could say, like, hey, I'm taking over this program and this is what I would suggest this be. So providing any revisions as needed. And then finally thinking about how you would share this information with families. How are you going to get it to families? How are you going to make sure there are more than one ways to share the information? And then is there any mode of electronic communication that you're going to use? And that is the family and staff handbook section. And then finally, in the last visit, we will have the portfolio evaluation. And that is where you are going to sit down with me and use the portfolio where you've been collecting all those artifacts from the child's learning to sit down with me and describe the child's development and what you learned about the child based on your assessments of their development. So that is everything in the seminar side, or the 297 side of things. Next, I'm going to show you what we will be doing on the actual practicum side. Okay, we talked about everything on the seminar side of things. Now I just want to real quickly go over what is in the practicum side. Like I said, I don't have a lot in this section. These are often just tasks that you're going to be doing, with the exception of one thing is a little more detailed in here. So the very first thing you're going to see in here is your timesheet. It's just what it sounds like. It's the place where you're going to document your 90 hours of required experience. Before the end of the semester, you have to have 90 hours of experience with preschool age children. Like I said, we can make exceptions for kindergarten or first or second if you need it. Just reach out to me if you have questions about that. But we'll have the timesheets listed here each month. I'm going to, after the end of the month, I give you a few days and I ask you to submit the previous month's hours. So you just come in here and click those. You can download the form, fill it out, handwritten is fine, and then scan it and upload it, take a photo and upload it. If you're going to take a photo though, please make sure that you take it, from the top down, and that I can understand it, I can read it, because I do have to verify your app. The next tab that I want to talk about are your observation tabs. So most of this is about half and half you and me. It's actually more me than it is you, but we're going to schedule observations. And once we have your observations scheduled, you're going to want to come in here and go to observation 1 and complete a short survey that I have in there for each of the observation days. This is just your chance to tell me a few details about what I can expect when I'm there, what lesson plan you're going to be doing, if there's any information I need to know about that's new, maybe you got a new teacher in the classroom, whatever the case, that is where you're going to share that information at. Okay. So you have the date and time scheduled, the administrator and mentor teacher know I'm coming, anything I need to be aware of. When you do your lesson plan observations, there's also a place for you to upload the lesson plan you're going to be using. That's why it's not there, is because this very first lesson that we're going to do is solely me seeing you interact with children and observing how you supervise them. Okay. So the very first lesson, the very first observation, you're not going to do a lesson with them. I'm just going to come watch you with the children. So it can be during snack time. It can be during outdoor play. The only time I don't want to schedule that observation is during nap time when children are sleeping, because I do want to see you interacting with children. So for the first one, you won't have the lesson plan uploaded, and then for the other two, you will. And then for this very last piece, you have the mentor teacher evaluations. I send those out to the mentor teachers when we get about midterm and then when we get near the end of the semester. And when they get those, they give me feedback about how well you're doing in the classroom. And then once they fill that out, then they will share it with you. They're supposed to sit you down with you and go over it. I'm not sure how often that actually happens, but they go over it with you, and then you will be the person who uploads it to this spot in Canvas so that I can give you the score for it. And then the very final thing is my evaluation. And I base it off everything we've done in the semester when I do this overall capstone evaluation. Okay. So I will be doing that on my own. There's actually nothing you have to submit there. I will be submitting that for you. And that's really it. That's all you have on the practicum side of things. So I hope this video gave you a nice overview of what you're going to be required to do in the practicum course. And if you have any questions or thoughts on anything, as always, please email me, reach out. We want to hit the ground running with this course and get you into your programs quickly and get started so that I can come and observe you soon. I always enjoy getting to see you in your natural element and seeing you working with children. And I hope this helps you to have a really successful semester so that we can wrap up your early childhood degree in just a nice, pleasant way for you. So thanks, everyone, and let me know if you have any questions.